Hey, Summer. I first of all just want to say thank you for just creating this opportunity to really just share something that's really important to me about just identity. And as we walk through these different stages and different chapters of our lives, just the challenges and also just really the strengthening that comes from that. So anyway, thank you so much for this opportunity. So starting out, I want to give just a little bit of history on some of the transition, just so those that may not know me as well can kind of have some context for just what this year has really been as far as change for us. So 11 years ago, my husband and I, who had been married, we found out, on our second wedding anniversary that I was pregnant, and we found out at our first ultrasound we were having twins. And up until that point, I was very driven just in school, in my career path, was really just moving quickly through the organization, and it was kind of like sky's the limit. And so I got to the point where having the children, I had always had in my heart that I wanted to stay home with them. My mom had the opportunity to do that, and that was just something I always wanted to do. So I tried for a while, kind of going between working from home part-time and caring for 2 infants, which was completely crazy. And just felt like I wasn't really doing anything well. And it took some time for my husband to feel like that we could really make it on one income. So I ended up leaving my position to stay home, and that was pretty traumatic to have kind of this corporate world and people contact to not sleeping at all. And sometimes when is the last time that I showered? It was such a culture shock. And that's when you and I met. So I'm just so thankful to be surrounded by other moms who had gone through that, and just the encouragement, because it was super stretching. There was a lot that I felt that I personally was losing, but at the same time in my heart, it's like, there's no way I could have it any other way. I wanted to be with my babies. So after I got through that transition, over time, we ended up with 2 more children. So we have 4, and then got to the point of enrolling them in school and realized that was just not going to work for our family. The schools were totally overcrowded, and I could just feel this tension in my heart as I would go to get ready to register them for school, that it just wasn't for us. And so the doors started opening for homeschool opportunities. And that came from many friends coming into my life that were all homeschooling. And as many of you may know, I'm a very strong woman of faith. And I just felt like, okay, something's going on here. I've never met this many homeschool moms in my life. And now all of a sudden, all of my closest friends are homeschoolers, right? So I just got asking questions and really just, kind of dug into what does that look like. And it was a stretch. It was, a big jump of faith. And so we ended up stepping into that, and it ended up being amazing for our family, kind of finding out what works best on our own in groups, any of that kind of thing. And so it was going really well. And I really was starting to just love being able to teach my children, being with them every day, providing opportunities for them to really learn hands-on. And at the same time, my husband was traveling a ton. There was a lot just between the 2 of us that was kind of hard at that time. And so I really needed to be at home to really just kind of hold things down. So here, the end of last year, there was another kind of transition. Just finances got really, really tight for a lot of different reasons. And I just felt that kind of pressing in my heart again, okay, a season change is coming. And I couldn't tell exactly what it was. But I could just kind of feel like something big is coming, right? And so anyway, exploring through all of that, with the financial pressures and all of those kinds of things and different things that had to be maintained or upkeep, all that kind of stuff. It's like, how is this supposed to work? And I just felt that prompting again to just reach out to my old boss, and the doors just opened up for me to go back to work full time. I had amazing help with getting the kids through the end of their homeschool year. Dear friends that I homeschooled with, and then I was able to be home for their days that we went to our community group. So it was kind of this in-between time, but it was a huge transition for all of us. And what I just loved is I feel like there's just such grace for our season that we're in. And even prior to me going back to work, I was feeling this prompting to pull back from being on my phone, really pull back from play dates and outings, and really get more organized. I just felt this desire, almost kind of like that spring cleaning or that nesting phase that we have. I started feeling that and like, what is going on? Chore charts on my refrigerator, like menus, the whole day's planned out menus, calendars, like I love to organize, and I've gotten away from a lot of that because when you're homeschooling, you kind of had to go with the flow a little bit, with kind of fitting in learning for each child. And we had a pretty good program, but this was like a different level of that. And then once the doors opened up, that was even before I had interviewed. Once the doors had opened up for that, it was like we just came into that season with such ease in a lot of ways. And just like all the things that we needed really started just kind of coming together. It was unbelievable and just such confirmation. You asked specifically, just about like, first of all, the challenges and what I was afraid of losing. So a couple of the things that I was afraid of losing was I was really able to be that voice in my kid's ear. Sometimes good, sometimes stressed mommy. But at the same time, I knew that even through conflict resolution with each other or with friends, navigating through choices, helping them learn, knowing their learning styles and how they respond best, I was able to do all of that. And so when the doors opened for them to go to school, just as like, how do we continue to do this? As my twins were starting to get into some really intensive writing programs, we just could really feel that piece that a private school that we had considered earlier was really the way to go. And so all 4 kids started school and, just really like, can I trust you with my children? Just meeting the teachers. And the first few times that I walked through that school was kind of like, I'm sure it was deer in the headlights. I could feel that prompting in my heart, but there was still a lot of like unassuredness of how exactly is this going to go? And are they ready? And have I done enough? So there was a lot of that kind of struggle. Because we'd never been in any kind of formalized school program. It was like homeschool groups that were amazing and very high academic, that they were doing presentations and all of that together, and had really grown in their confidence. But this was very different, very long days. And they stepped into that and did amazing.